Okay, welcome back. It's the next stage of the grand build of the 918 Spider by Porsche. So we've been repairing a lot of parts, hence the delay for the last 2 months. We are in the end of July of 2025 when we take this video. And we had to repair engine cover, dials, suspension component parts, interior parts, and some of the wiring for this car. But we're now at this point where we're about to put the front module, the rear module, the main powertrain module, and the front chassis all together. So it's going to be in stages exactly the same as the production line that was in Stuttgart when I went to visit. And we were doing it in the same 10 stages. So stage 1 of the chassis, we have to check everything through on here, and we have to insert the wiring harness that's above and below, and the air pump, and some of the other clips that needed to contain the wiring connections underneath as well. After that, we start assembling the dashboard componentry, the interior safety components such as airbag controls and safety modules, and all the ECU modules, which I'm going to show you how we repair them as well. After that, we continue the completion of the middle module, as I call it, or Saturn V Stage 2. However, we have found a problem. There's a couple of water pipes that are damaged through transportation when we were lifting it off to get onto the transporter, or some stage in its process is traveling along here. It's not leaking, but the pipes are a bit crushed. So these are the the oil cooling pipes for the engine. You can see a gearbox, and you can see the cooler is over here. So they need replacing, and they're £640 to replace, which is very sad that we have to do it, but we have to do it because this is going to go through another 20 years of life before it probably gets through its next build out. And the rear frame is perfectly sorted to get all the electronics components connected back up inside, as well as the inverter, and then mounting the engine, monkey in the trees as we call it, or the two mounts at the top, the middle mount and the rear mount. And those mounts are over there. They've been restored and repainted and been galvanized to be protected. So that's that section. And then finally, the front module, we have to change every single bolt and nut on the suspension, sadly. I've been trying to avoid doing that, but these are stretch bolts in titanium, and I'll show you them when they're all out. We've done a dry fit to put things together, which you've seen in another video, but this is now pre-checked, go in, and then it will be bolted onto the front end of the chassis tub. But that's quite a few steps away because we're following the way they did it in Stuttgart with the 10-stage system. The chassis, as I've explained before, is fully lacquered, cleaned and prepared to have the final brackets, and we have a little bundle of brackets that have appeared to go back into the car, which need a bit of a clean up, and they're here, and these were all part of the stages of when we were sanding back and cleaning the chassis. There's a couple of Velcro strips which we wouldn't be able to use, but these brackets need to go back on the chassis. They're quite critical, but they need a bit of a clean up and a sort out. Right. So what did we repair in the last 2 months? Well, probably in the 3 months. We had items like this dial set over here. So what you see here, I will show you a pre-picture of what it looked like and how it was put together. But this is a brand new dial set. Well, it isn't. It was quite damaged, and we stripped it down to the many components it's in. And we've managed to polish all the glass, which is actually a plastic, actually. Repair all the wiring, and if the damage from water ingress or heat through the years, and repaint it in the same matte black material that it started off with. That had to be brought completely back to metal and then redone in its matte black finish because it started flaking. And as you can see, its original sticker has been put on afterwards to notify for future use. That was one of the large difficult parts to do. This part here also had to be retrimmed. It just was not good enough to our standards. So it has to be completely retrimmed, and then the glove box, because this was sitting underwater for 10 years through its storage, and that had to be replaced. Thank you to the team for doing that. And then after that, simple but small adjustments had to be done to the wiring harness, which you can see here. I think this weighs about 40 kilos, but remember it's driving 2 electric motors, a battery, an inverter setup, as well as a main wiring harness to do all the latest HMI and internal music controls and Bose sound system, or Burmeister, sorry. There are a couple of bits that still need a bit of a check over and cleaning, like this fuse deck. There's a bit of condensation in there, so we have to take the fuses out, clean them individually and put them back in. But this wiring harness is the first stage to go in. This also took a lot of effort. This is 10 years of sitting underwater because it had a bit of an issue in storage. So every component on here has been bead blasted and repainted in our spray booth. We didn't feel it was right to throw away this equipment. We thought it was a good effort to put it back together with our local team around the corner called Push Forward, and they are a group of apprentices and learning apprentices that are helping us with the stages that we don't particularly mind them doing, and some of the parts that they're doing are very complicated and labour intensive, even down to the nuts and bolts and screws over here. They've all been clean, bead blasted and dipped into a high temperature process. So they are the original bolts, which we are still allowed to use, but they are in a very good state to go back on the car. This makes a saving of about £30,000 to £40,000, although the client doesn't really care about the money on this one. They've got a large collection, they just want it to be done as perfectly as possible. But on this occasion, we decided that it would be a nice project for Push Forward to do for us. The seats and seat backs are still in process, and you can see down here there is the leftover old leather seating which we don't want to use, can't use, and they're too stretched or the heat, sunlight's damaged them. The fuel tank's okay, that's underneath there. But we'll carry on to the other large bit that took a huge amount of effort. So the other large piece of work that we had to do to finish prior to assembly, because we had time to do all the updates and repair work that we were capable of doing, and now we've finished that stage. And this was the engine cover. This is about £100,000, which you see over here. And the reason it's so expensive is because it's made of multiple stainless steel parts treated with different processes. So the cat covers are a different finish to the exhaust point over here. These surrounds are slightly different finish to the centre kidneys. These are all quite bent, damaged, crash sort of state. So we had to repair, lift, paint, re-anodize, assemble every single piece on here. And we managed to do it within a very, very good budget, because we just wanted to make sure we could reuse everything we could and also perhaps improve it as well. So we believe some of the coatings on here that we put on are probably a little bit more durable in the long run as well. But what a masterpiece, and we've managed to piece it together, and it looks better than new as far as I'm concerned. Even compare it to my car, some of the finishing is coming out really, really great. So quite delighted with that. Another part we had to repair, tidy, clean, remove any kind of debris or entry from the outside elements was this chassis frame. So what you can see here, this is actually upside down. So this mounts to the bottom of the chassis, and these two ends are bolted to the sides of the tub. And what they do is support that twisting motion and reduce it. Although the chassis has got an amazing torsional strength, this is just one step further. And as you can see, it's like 8 to 10 mil thick carbon in places down here. And it's got this air conditioning unit. That's what makes this car actually really usable. It's a really great air conditioning unit and fan. And sadly, one of the wires was damaged and we had to repair that. So it's working really great. It's been cleaned up and put back together again. Okay, so with this is the ECU drawer and the Burmeister drawer, as I call it. There are a couple of parts that are still pretty awful, like this one, which is the airbag management system and the main fuse system. Now, I can clean this up, and I probably will clean it up, but it's probably better that we put a brand new one, which is about £96, which is oddly really inexpensive. And that's because there's a carryover part from a 911. Because I can see it says 991 618 075. So it's a 991 911 part. There are other control modules here for various parts of the car, such as tyre pressure monitoring, headlight, that's a Continental. I think that's to do with the tyre pressure monitoring over there, and bracketry. There's some PDMs from Bosch, which I recognise from the motorsport division. These are the old systems. There's two of them, one on the left, one on the right, and they control things like lights, indicators, lights on, certain switching for the interior. So that was quite an expensive part. We chose to restore it with one of our apprentices, and it came out really great. So it's got a galvanized protection on it, so it'll last a lot longer than the original one actually. So these are the parts that we're going through. There's other bracketry, there's some control modules, and then we have a problem with this pedal. This pedal, we don't know whether it's going to be reliable enough, so we're going to have to buy a new one. This one has had some water ingress. I have cleaned it multiple times, and you can still see some plastic shading coming through. So I keep cleaning it, but it just kind of breathes out the years of being in a poor condition. ABS unit's quite cute. That's come out very well. It's very similar to the ABS unit we've got upstairs in Motorsport, and things like the motor and bracket for the washer wiper system that has been stripped, re-galvanized and put back together again, so it'll have over protection compared to the original part that was made by Bosch. As you can see, like this part here. I mean, this part is immensely impressive. It's so light, and it's made of a material, I can't see the material code on it, but it looks like it's made of aluminium magnesium because it's so strong and light. So those are some of the parts that we're having to, which we have repaired. Things like pumps, accumulators. So it's the Wabco traditional one. You'll find this on a Tesla actually, the Wabco. And some of the cooling systems for the air conditioning unit. That's from another car. I just kept it in there. And then final things like, not the stereo system, that's going into our archives, but there's a massive pump that sits underneath the middle of the car, which I'll show you on the build, and that's what raises the front suspension to go over speed bumps. It makes a noise every time you press the button, and various other little pieces that... left-hand side rad motor. So that's in pretty good condition. It's got a little bit of deterioration on there, but we'll improve it, and the O-ring's been kept with it. And we move on to some of the interior parts over here. They have been re-lacquered. So immensely light, incredibly well made. It's got a aramid sheet in here. I don't know why they've done that. It's probably something to do with impact or airbag use, but that's been re-lacquered in a gold finish. So you'd think it was just clear, but it's not. The interior components on this car are actually a gold finish. And parts like this, they had to be completely stripped, cleaned. All of these sort of inserts that had a bit of corrosion on them over the years have been polished up. And you can see the intricacies of how Porsche would have made it, which is very inspirational for us. So it's got a rubberized foam strip here to stop vibration. This is all part of the acid delete kit. So when you remove the acid green on certain cars or change the color, this is the part that is in question. So it's a metal part that's screwed down and riveted, and it has a blob of glue behind it to stop any vibration and movement, because that's what rivets do when temperature changes. That's the level of how Porsche have done things. And it's got this foam strip, as I say, for the next part that goes on top, doesn't cause any vibration and noise when driving along. It's a polished system on here as well. So you see it on other supercars. They take a lacquered carbon fiber finish and polish it back down to a matte finish. And that's quite useful for a dashboard to stop glare. So I'll quickly go through some of the drawers. These are all our nuts and bolts. Every nut and bolt has been labelled, and some of them, as you know from what I've explained earlier on, have to be replaced for the suspension. But things like front indicator, side indicator, top dash bolts, we've labelled everything, and they kind of go on a size basis. So the bigger stuff goes into the bigger bit here, and the smaller stuff still hangs around here. You'll probably recognise these as part of the interior dash componentry, and also, let's find something that also is recognisable. Things like this. So these are the centre locks. So this particular car has got the red and blue for left side for red and right side for blue. My particular car has black ones because it was part of the story of building the car, similar to my Carrera GT. This one has the traditional 918 setup, and that's your front badge. Probably needs a little bit of clean actually. You can see how it's mounted with two cups, and I don't know where the other one is. I might have to buy another one. It might be in the bag, maybe it's not in the bag. Don't know where the other one is. Might be in another sort of part over here. And the things like this. So these have come off. I know where they've come off. They've come off that centre tunnel piece, so that has to be re-glued on with an epoxy. And then large bolts, locky parts, the front handle to open the boot. And these are really tricky things, which I've noticed Freddie Tavares has got through that hurdle. These are the dust caps, and they've got the Porsche logos on there, and you need a special tool to do it. And I'll show you those special tools. So the number of special tools to get a car apart like this it's about 3 or 4, and we'll go on to that. So just to show you some of the special tools we had to buy to be able to take the car apart, and there are 3 in particular. So this is a critical part. Before we could get this tool, which took about a week and a half from Germany, this is the dust cap removal tool. I attempted to make one in 3D print carbon. I wasn't too far off, but they supply pins which go into the dust cap to twist, and you can see it's a metallic with a protective sheet over there to allow the dust caps to be removed, to then use the standard Porsche center lock removal tool, which we've kept here for this car. The other special tool, you can see these are the pins that they give you a spare set because they obviously tend to break. I tried using the 3D print, but it was just not strong enough. But I was on the right line. I could have put these stainless steel pins in there, but we've got the real tool there. And then the final tool that we talked about earlier on one of our shorts is the spark plug removal tool, which is quite specific. It's very thin walled, and it's made by Hazet, which is a very famous German company that makes tools. They obviously have a good relationship with Porsche. So that's your main tool set to take a car apart. We didn't know that. It took us about 2 or 3 days to work out how to take the wheel set off, because there are no instructions on these cars. And we had to buy a set of instructions before we were given our license for Porsche for us to use their PWIS system. And then you've got this here. This is a company called Marchant Kane. They did come see me in 2014, and they were working on promoting their floor louver actuation system. So this is the 918 one, specifically made in England, and it allows the louvers to lift and lower, and I'll show you those. They had to be again cleaned and prepared, and sadly one of them is damaged. So I'm going to have to either speak to the guys at Marchant Kane or have to buy a special glue for it, because sadly these parts do not come in separate bits, but I've noticed one of the mounts over there is broken. You can see that in there, so I'm having to glue it, or I might give Marchant Kane. They might say yes, you can have that bit, otherwise go to Porsche, and I have no idea how much these things cost, but I bet it begins with a 1 or a 2 and 3 zeros. Some of the lights, which that's the left and rear light, but I don't think we can repair those. They are pretty bad. But it's things like, these sit underneath the car. They're quite amazing. They're forged carbon fibre. Headrest, the other one has just been delivered yesterday. That's been repaired. And so the louvers I was explaining are these things. So these things drop and lower on underneath the front of the car. But we'll get to that point when I show you how it's put together. And this is a hall sensor. So there's a sensor for everything to say, yeah, I'm down or I'm up. And they've got this beautiful rubberized component, and it's made in Italy. So a lot of the parts you think are made of plastic, they're not. They're made of this sheet carbon fibre that's been prepared. And then you probably recognise that's a footplate. But we have a problem with this footplate. As you can see here, the time inserts or inserts, which is stainless steel, it's not steel, has pulled through the carbon. So we're going to have to re-put that in there. We've got to separate it and re-put it back and glue it. And then a part like this is falling apart as well. So through water damage or heat, that needs to be re-glued back in there. And there's another one there which we need to find, and another one there. It's in our box of bits, I'm sure. This is the front lock system and an air vent system which is broken. I can try and repair that. If it doesn't come out good enough, we'll have to buy a new one. Seat belts, and then it continues down here to interior components. They were slightly damaged through water. I've cleaned them up as best as I can, and things like the speakers. I'll try my best to repair those. If I can't, which is unlikely, it looks like I can repair those. They just need a bit of love cleaning. And then we'll do a sound test on them. Then we have to put 2 new ones. I think they are the same part code as a Taycan, but I'll have to check. They look like they're from Italy. And there's other parts like the wiring systems. One of these air vents, it does say needs testing. So we can put a tester on there to check it's working, but you can see the high voltage lines which are going to go under the car, front and back components, and things like these, which are bolting points for the wiring for the high voltage system. So they're all cleaned up, prepared, ready to go. Things like the wishbones and engine mounts. So these engine mounts have been galvanized again. They were pretty glossy, and the rest of the parts are sitting over there. So that's stage 1 of putting the engine back in there. But we can't do that because we have a broken water pipe at the back of the gearbox. I'm going to give these a K&N wash. So we probably could use those again because they look quite sturdy. So we might be able to use those again. And things, unless in the service manual we have to change it. These are water bottles that sit in the engine bay. Some of the tubing. This looks quite familiar. That looks like it sits underneath the... Oh, I have to check the code. That's a bit of a worry, that is. And these are the covers. So these are the bits that Arash is missing in his car. They were quite burnt. So these are the covers that go over the intake manifolds of the engine. And they are a funny colour. They're like a purple colour. But I don't know why they've done that. And it's almost like it's purple on the inside here. So it suggests to me that this is a resin system for a pre-impregnated part. And it's a wide, very wide fat weave. So it looks like it's a resin system that goes up to 700, 800 degrees in terms of its fire and retardant capability. But it won't withstand 2,000, 3,000, which Freddie's probably experienced with his car. Some of the wishbones that we can use, and some of them we can't use. So this one is getting stuck. So these ones look a little bit bent. But these ones we have regalvanized and they are ready to go back on the car, although that's not so great. So that needs a bit of a clean up, and I'm not so happy about this nut. So we'll try and see if that can be reused again. If it can't, then it can't. And some of the anti-roll bar parts are looking pretty okay, but these sadly are no good and they have to be replaced with new. These are the actuators for the rear wing. Sadly, this component here has fractured. It's a cast component, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to repair that. And I don't know if it's possible to repair that, but you can't buy these individual bits, so I think they're scrap, depending on what the client says, but I think he's going to be, or she is going to be disappointed that they have to be replaced, and they're £3,000 each side. And inside here is all the interior components for the car, such as air vents, door passenger handle. Outside there's locks, there's door handle covers, electric windows, more rubber seals, all sorts of bracketry which you tend to forget about when you are designing a car. But when you make a car of this stature, you realise how many components are on the car that are actually validated, tested and working. Brake caliper, the fittings for it, the brake pads, the disc, the front suspension component with the area for filling up with air to lift the car up. So again, not bad, not happy with some of the finishing and cleaning on there, but we'll go into that and tidy them up. There's the other caliper set and other front suspension and disc. Discs look okay. I don't think they need updating in any way. They're just a little bit tarnished looking, but with some checking through the workshop manual, we might be okay with its improvement in look. This is a part, sadly, that is broken. I can see it's broken there. That's the rear steer. The good one's on the other side of the shelf, but there's some bracketry here that, again, I can't work with it. Sadly, it's broken, or it's been damaged, and it's split. Steering stalks, and then under here we've got things like interior boot componentry. So that's the front boot area, and some of the air boxes, and a pocket that we keep the tyre inflation system. I can't remember what this bit is. Rear wing cooling ducts. Wow. So that's the next stage explained with some of the componentry that we've repaired. I know it's taken a little bit too long. 2 months is an eternity for us, but they do take time to repair things. Plus, we have been doing other projects, which kind of has pushed me into a position where we're having to take on a lot more people in this company. So as we've been doing projects, we've been inviting other projects to come along, as well as repairing our sports cars ready to go back on the road. I've had a long journey since 2000, and some of the cars you're going to see have been sitting in storage. Some of them didn't work, some weren't complete. But this one's a great project that we're doing alongside. There's a team of 4 of us that work on this, mainly from now, and we won't stop until we run out of either parts, or parts are still being waited to be painted or delivered. So we keep going over the next stage, which is wiring harness install, which is that big wiring harness over there. Electrical systems for the high voltage, which go underneath. The air compressor. Some of the safety systems go inside the car. And then the interior, the dashboard installation. But the first thing we do need to do is cover up all this beautiful lacquer inside to stop it getting damaged as we go in and out of the car. It's already got the PPF on there, but we want to try and protect it inside and the back and the front. And that's what Porsche did on the assembly line when I noticed when I was there and when I was watching the videos as well. I know it comes across as a bit of a talk show at the moment. We've had one of the comments on the YouTube website, but you're going to see me do this step by step. And then you're going to see other cars I'm doing step by step. So you're going to see me really on the hammer, on the spanners and torque settings. You're going to see me upside down in the car. You're going to see me working with the team, trying to get through the next few months of finishing off this masterpiece and getting it set up on the computer system to make sure the systems work, turn the engine on, turn the electrical systems on, and eventually getting it on track again. Thanks for watching. Let the games begin.